Day 929 of the Ukrainian War Map, also known as the Russo-Ukrainian War. Juzzie here, and today is another update as I take a simplified and down-to-earth approach to some of the most important happenings on the ground in Ukraine. So starting off, we'll take a look at those Russian losses, as currently Russia sits on more than 626,000 military personnel losses, representing an additional 1,150 in the past day. Then as for hardware losses, 3 tanks, 9 APVs, and 26 artillery. With an overall potential new trend forming here for fewer tanks, artillery, and infantry fighting vehicle losses, which may in fact be due to fewer operational, especially given that there's no shortage of activity on the map. But truly, only time will tell if this trend continues, alongside seeing any activity such as Russian infantry performing head-on wave after wave attacks, in combination with something of a two-wheel army. Then we'll head to the map, as just at the time of uploading yesterday, a Ukrainian drone struck a fuel depot in the Belgorod Oblast, with causing a massive fire according to Regional Governor Gladkov. Local media and Telegram channels also shared the visuals of the blaze near Volokhanovka, showing the thick smoke and flames. And since that initial event, the fire had reportedly spread to railway fuel tanks as well, escalating the situation. So an event like this, once again proving that not much within Russia is safe, just one oblast away. And indeed many more these days. Then headed just a bit west of here, as there's a bit of panic on Russian channels, as these sources indicate growing concern, as the Ukrainian armed forces have deployed new reserves to the Kursk region, bolstering their second line of defense, with engineering troops also being positioned, signaling preparations for a potential offensive. And so a good summary of Ukrainian tactics in Kursk would be how smaller groups of infantry move and probe defenses, avoiding major fortified towns. Then once weak points in the line are established, fast maneuver strike groups conduct assaults. Now headed more specifically on this sector of the map, it looks like the Kage Bridge has come back on the AFU's radar, as the heavily damaged bridge was seen getting struck again. And this is just mere days after Russian units were filming themselves slowly driving over the bridge in their civilian Buhanka vans. Although from this latest strike, it looks like the bridge may require targeting 1 or 2 more times to ensure complete loss of its functionality. But as stated previously, no heavy armor is getting through this bridge, tanks, APVs, whatever the case may be. A situation that Russia has had to deal with for a number of weeks now. Then as for the media front, as far as Kursk is concerned, Russian state media was talking their talk, where one of the hosts asked the question on when will Russia liberate Kursk, where apparently they were asking this to one of the military, quote-unquote, whatever that is supposed to precisely mean, with somebody from the military replying to basically state why. So it seems to me this is a classic case of Russian reframing of a narrative, where if they think that they cannot get the land back anytime soon, militarily speaking, then they just change the tone and dismiss its importance. Although behind the scenes, the chair-throwing Putin has reportedly demanded that the Russian MOD take back Kursk by October 1st. All in the meanwhile, the Russian media play it cool on the front end, but are unquestionably seething on the back end at the embarrassment of losing their own territory after an invasion they started themselves. Although, in a change of pace with another Russian state media political show, the Russian mindset continues to show its true nature, with one such panelist suggesting a willingness to destroy their own towns, villages, and forests to eliminate the Ukrainian threat. So just get rid of it all and start fresh. But meanwhile, the AFU reportedly made another breach into Moscovian territory. Now, whether this is a reconnaissance in force group probing enemy defenses or something bigger, it is nonetheless an interesting point for an incursion, as it puts the Russian town of Rilsk at further risk. But it also happens to be an outflanking position that would disrupt Russian back-channel support north of the Sime River, where they operate in support of their defenses in the southernmost controlled region here. And so a benefit of a lot of these small cross-border operations by the AFU also have their own separate impact of highlighting to Russia the need to protect multiple border points across the entire north, and thus stretching Russia's already stretched northern commitment to hardware and personnel. Conversely, it doesn't take much for AFU resources to probe specific border points to the north. Reason being, Ukraine did what needed to be done a long time ago, which was devote a lot of personnel to their northern border right after Russia's initial invasion, then initial pullback. So now, the Russian forces have to attempt to establish some semblance of border protection for a threat they hadn't previously considered. Then headed all the way down on the map and briefly to the Toretsk direction of the Donbass, where the situation appears to be stable on certain fronts. The Ukrainian counterattack north of New York remains with those newly held positions, although just northeast of here, there has been a noted increase in the amount of Russian infantry present to the east headed in the direction of Toretsk, but no official updates in map changes as yet. Then to the Pokrovsk direction, where minimal frontline changes have occurred, although Russian forces pushed forward a street or two in Rodivka on their northwestern front. Meanwhile, there was increased activity at perhaps the most critical point of this direction, where Russian forces are still dead set on extending southward to a length of almost exactly 5 kilometers as a means to collapse the AFU's positions here. So if Russia extends any further from north to south at this junction point, Ukraine would inevitably have to make the determination as to whether or not they'll stay or withdraw from this region. And there was also an interesting story from this location by a Russian mobilized man titled "About Mistakes at War," stating how a young and inexperienced lieutenant moved mortars closer to the infantry, leading to a massive increase in their casualties. So this decision would aim to provide more direct support, but instead just turned out to be a disaster. Now, within the same message, other expressed concerns included ongoing challenges with logistics, including a lot of breakdowns and lack of spare parts. Then taking a look around on the map, because somewhere in the east we continue to see an uptick in the neutralization of the Russian long-range surveillance drones with AFU quadcopters. This one you see here is a Russian Merlin VR recon drone about to get popped, which is worth about $300,000 to $500,000 depending on the configuration, leading to quite the bang for buck ratio with the significantly cheaper Ukrainian search and destroy drones designed for this very purpose. Then also in the east, we got an eyeful over the outcome from an FPV attack onto the Russian 120mm self-propelled mortar, the 2S9 Nona S. So weak armor, wheel tracks missing and thus disabled, though possibly an infield cannibalization of parts, but hard to say. Then to those Dragon thermite drones, where it is too soon to call the mass proliferation of these new Ukrainian platforms in the battlefields, though they have certainly been quite prevalent in over the past week now, and seeming to still get a lot of utility within the east. Then looking outside of Russia and Ukraine, as Russian drones crashed in Romania and Latvia over the weekend, sparking concerns over airspace violations. In Romania, a Russian drone entered its airspace on September 8th during an attack on Ukraine, prompting warnings for residents and the deployment of their own F-16 fighter jets. The drone likely struck a non-residential area in Tulsa, followed by Romania condemning the incident and informed NATO allies, calling Russia's actions a violation of international law. And as for the Latvia front, a Russian military UAV also crashed, and not exactly where you would expect one to crash, with President Rinkovic confirming an investigation is underway. Both countries are now pushing for stronger border protections on this matter, which may include regular usage of air defences within their country to protect their own airspace, and even slightly beyond, at least as far as Romania is concerned, who shares a border with Ukraine. Then headed across to some news for today. So the Netherlands has confirmed the delivery for additional Patriot air defense system launchers to Ukraine, Specifically, the Dutch government is supplying 3 more Patriot launchers as part of its ongoing military support, although due to security reasons, the exact timing of the delivery has not been publicly disclosed, but is expected to happen very shortly, all as noted by Dutch Defense Minister Ruben Brekelmans during his recent announcements. Then headed across to some Russian hardware updates, and how I've missed these, but getting back into the flow of things, there is certainly no shortage. As in this latest instance, Russians are complaining about artillery charges that are coming from different sources and have different gunpowder weights, leading to much worse accuracy. So on the Russian Telegram channel, they ask the rhetorical question of why can't they hit anything? As they lead on to state that they bought 10 shells from 6 different places, with the power weight distribution being different for every single one. Added to that, they then state how each shell has its own shot calculation. So that is not an efficient state of play. A lot of bad accuracy will come from attempting to manage the changes in each of the shell's weights. Interestingly enough, this information comes long after Russian artillerists who have been known to have quite poor accuracy already, with the use of their older and unmaintained, worn-out barrels for their howitzers that they simply have to work with. Then headed across to another Russian military mobilization blunder segment. This one is chock full of blunders, as we saw a video call between 2 Russian men, one that headed off to the SMO, stating, quote, "My patriotism is starting to run out, Vladimir Vladimirovich." He also stated later, "Putin, where's my money?" So to list out some of this Russian soldiers' realized issues in the field, because first up, after only getting paid the monthly amount of roughly 20 to 30,000 rubles, which is about 200 to 300 US dollars per month, he then also tried to get dismissed for health reasons due to a vertebrae back injury. He then mentioned that thanks to a signed order by Putin, that people are now just simply not getting dismissed anymore. But then back to the 20 or 30,000 rubles per month that he's only getting. He said that he keeps asking about, where's the better pay rate? And is just constantly hearing back from the Russian MOD saying that there will be an adjustment or recalculation that never comes. So it appears that he got gypped. He's getting paid significantly smaller amounts, the non-SMO participation rate, with the promise of an adjustment that he will never see. So now he's angry and sees it for the sham that it all is. But also, as you might point out in the comments, a lot of these individuals, their allegiance is to cash money. And certainly not otherwise for some patriotism. So there you have it, no higher pay, no going home, but at least a lot of them are now spreading the message about getting completely boned by the Kremlin, which creates further distrust within their society towards their government that flat out lied to them. And so, as you see with previous segments or funnies, it doesn't matter how much they keep nailing cell phones to trees or walls or posts. With this freshest of footage said to be from Kursk, all as Russia attempts to hammer down on the voice of dissent, which is impossible to do given all of the new soldiers and new phones that keep popping up all over the place. So clearly the Russian MOD doesn't want it to get out that serving in the SMO is, simply put, absolute crap. So that's it for today, guys. Thanks again for watching. Please continue to like, comment, subscribe, all of those nice things, as I always say. And I do hope to see all of you guys there in the next one. Cheers!